Hi guys, and welcome to the video. So, Strange New World, Season 1, Episode 6. Wow, okay, so I viewed this episode on Thursday. Unfortunately, time just got away from me. I wasn't able to complete a review, or wasn't really able to start a review for this episode because I focused on the episode of the Orville. So I didn't really have time to do two videos. It's a very tight schedule that I have. Fitting two videos in such a short space of time, it's really not possible. So I may have to stagger my reviews somewhat. Now, I walked away from that episode actually genuinely happy. I thought it was a really poignant episode. It was a very good concept, and it really impressed me. And I was all set to do a positive review. Now, I've gone back and rewatched the episode so I can get a fresh perspective, and it's fresh in my mind. And this episode is not without its problems. Where I was originally impressed on my first viewing, the second viewing is a very different experience, and I'll tell you why. As usual, I will go through the episode, give you a rundown of what happens, point out some things that I liked, some things that I disliked. You know the drill by now. There will be full spoilers for the episode, so you've been warned. I'm going to break this episode down because, again, on the surface, it's a really good episode. When you go back and really think about it, there are a lot of plot holes, a lot of inconsistencies that don't quite marry up. So the episode opens with Pike giving a captain's log. They're heading to a system called Magellan. It's like the shuttlecraft, except it's not spelt the same. Pike's given his log, and in his log he says that he hasn't been here in 10 years. When he came face to face with a pulsar, it's not something you tend to forget. He states that he thinks the day's going to be pretty uneventful, and boy, oh boy, how wrong he was. He goes into a turbo lift and finds Uhura. She's been doing some security training with the Noonien Belter. She's been doing combat training because she's on rotation, learning all the different duties aboard the ship. Pike tells her that, there's going to be rules to follow. La'an's got her own rules. Kind of like Gibbs from NCIS, Gibbs's rules. But she's got La'an's rules. The rules of the Belters! They head to the bridge, and Uhura's greeted by our favourite Belter. Boy, oh boy, does she have a stick up her backside. The obnoxious does come out in this episode a little bit, but there's also a flip side to that, which I'll get into a little bit later in the video. They get a distress call from a non-Federation shuttle, and it's being attacked by some sort of small combat cruiser. We see the reintroduction of grapple systems for those ships that don't have tractor technology, and I actually really liked that. In Enterprise, I really loved the grappler system because it was so very limited in, obviously, in range and in functionality. I thought it was a really good prequel attribute. Before tractor beams, the only way you could pull a ship towards you was with a grappler system. So it's nice to see the grappler system back in place, and this grappler system is obviously on this light cruiser that's attacking the shuttle. Now, I just want to say something about Pike's hair. Okay, little gripe, but oh, I saw a meme on a Facebook group. Someone posted the Johnny Bravo image and said, oh my God, it's Pike. And that was absolutely fantastic. I thought that was brilliant because now I can't unsee it. Pike's hair is just Johnny Bravo's hair. It's hilarious. I'm not exactly sure why that hairstyle, they've kept that hairstyle. Personally, I think it looks pretty ridiculous. On with the episode. Pike informs the cruiser that they're acting in a hostile manner, and the Enterprise has a duty to stop them because they've answered a distress call. This ship fires on the Enterprise, and Pike orders Tactical to take out their power systems without causing too much damage. So our favourite Belter gives that job to a cadet, to Uhura, and she can't compensate for the ship suddenly manoeuvring into the Enterprise's phaser beam, which I thought was a little ridiculous. But hey, that's just a small little gripe. Ship's there, she's targeted it. The phasers can adjust direction very quickly. But that's not really my gripe. The gripe is that in a situation like that, it's active training where you'd probably do it in a simulator first of some sort. But La'an trusts Uhura. Uhura kind of messes up. The ship takes heavy damage and crashes onto a moon with no atmosphere. Keep that in mind for later. So the Enterprise beams the survivors of the shuttlecraft aboard, and turns out it's a Magellan called Elora. Pike has a history with her. She was actually the person that he saved from the Pulsar 10 years ago. She calls him Lieutenant Pike because he was a lieutenant last time she saw him. She references the fact that it's a new uniform. It's very yellow. Pike goes, actually, it's gold. And he fumbles around because he was clearly very attracted to her in the past. He fumbles around, which I thought was quite comical, really. There's 3 people on the transporter pad. There's Elora and there's a gentleman with a child, with a boy. Number 1 tells her that we got to go debrief you and find out what's going on. The gentleman with the child, he states that he must insist they go to sickbay because the child's injured. And Pike asks, are you the boy's father? And the gentleman responds, strictly in a biological sense, which I thought was very odd, even in context of the rest of the episode. Cuts to a scene with M'Benga and his daughter. He's reading her a story. She states that he's already read that part of the book, and he explains that, you're in and out of the transporter so much, I can't keep up with where you are. My first thought when it came to that is, there's a piece of ancient technology that could help with remembering where you are in a book. It's called a bookmark. Who knew? That's what they're for, to mark a book, to remind you where you were when you last read it. I know the guy's probably stressed out with his job, but takes a second to put a bookmark in a book. He also reveals that the transporter is on an auto timer, so he doesn't get distracted and spend too much time with her, hence advancing her illness any more than necessary. And the transporter re-energizes mid-conversation as she's back in the transporter buffer, which, by the way, I still think is a really daft idea. I don't understand why he wouldn't keep her at Starfleet Medical. Perhaps put her in stasis if stasis technology exists at this point. But no, he has to keep her on board the Enterprise, where there's a real chance of some major power issues and the threat of the ship being so badly damaged. Well, yeah, I still think that's a really daft idea. So the boy and the gentleman who are beamed aboard, they come into sickbay. Cuts to a scene with Elora, and she's explaining that the child is known as the first servant. And the first servant is chosen by lottery, remember that, lottery, to ascend to the throne of their planet, Magellan. She doesn't know the people who attacked them. She's not familiar with them. They've surmised that it might be a nearby colony where the Magellans have lived in relative peace with. She doesn't want an investigation, but Pike tells her that it's Starfleet protocol, Starfleet's involved, and they've got to do an investigation. La'an, Nooney, and Drummer, she suggests that they take a landing party down to the wreckage of the ship to try and find out more information. Seems reasonable. Cuts back to sickbay with the first servant, the elder, his father, M'Benga and Nurse Chapel. The first servant's got a head injury, and Nurse Chapel is scanning him. It's revealed through a bit of dialogue that the Magellans heal on the quantum level. Now, I don't know what it is about modern sci-fi, but everything's got to be quantum these days. Quantum mechanics is the hot topic in science fiction right now, and it's getting a little tiresome. So the Magellans have advanced medicine. They have advanced medical technology that can heal people at the quantum level. Everything starts at the quantum level. Disease starts at the quantum level. So there's no disease on Magellan. Okay, so they use quantum implants to maintain people's health. And Benga's really curious about this because, there's no disease on their planet. So, again, he ties into his daughter. And it's pretty obvious where that section of the episode is going to go. So it cuts to the crashed spaceship, the crashed cruiser that was attacking the shuttle on the surface of a moon with no atmosphere. I mean, it's pretty much like our moon. It's depicted that way, and it's got no atmosphere. This ship is torn in half. Most of the interior is exposed to space. But our motley crew of plot-armoured Enterprise officers board this ship with no spacesuits. Now, I know what some of you are going to say who have seen my Orville review, that Mercer and crew went on board this space station with no EV suits. I wasn't critical of that because Star Trek is rife with that particular trope. Endless times you've seen officers beam into locations where they think it's relatively safe to do so. They'll get infected by something and all hell breaks loose. The issue is here, it's a moon with no atmosphere and the crew simply walking around without spacesuits on. They've got the tactical gear on, but no EV suits whatsoever. There's no atmosphere. They can't breathe. The first time round, I didn't really think about it. This is why I think shows like this benefit from a second viewing, because you're a little bit more analytical on the second way through. So they walk onto this ship on the moon with no atmosphere, and they're checking through the wreckage, making sure everything's secure. Uhura goes to touch a control, and La'an makes a really good point. She's like, use your tricorder. Your tricorder is your eyes. You look, you don't touch. You scan, you don't touch. They secure what's left of the ship. So Pike, Allura, and Spock come in to the ship with no atmosphere, on a moon with no atmosphere, without EV suits on. Spock finds like a cranial interface, something that looks like a cranial interface. And they find this coin on the ship. Allura knows what it is, and it cuts back to the Enterprise, where Pike questions her about this coin. And this coin's revealed to be an oath coin that's given to the Lenarian guards. They're guards that pledge their life to, obviously, protecting the First Servant. They're like Magellan's Secret Service, I suppose. And this coin's been defaced. It's illegal to deface the coin. It means that someone in the Magellan Secret Service or the Magellan Protective Detail is a traitor. We cut then to the planet's surface, or I say the planet's surface. This planet's kind of Avatar-ish. It's got floating islands, floating sections, and these sections are quite high up. And Star Trek, NuTrek, definitely has a real hard-on for floating displays. I'm getting quite sick and tired of floating displays. These displays are just awful, in my opinion. You know, you see people going, you know, I think that's probably where technology is going to be headed if we ever figure out a way to project the image in front of us and make it tactile. I can't see me ever using technology like that. I think it's horrendous. Discovery did it in season 3 and 4, where they had the comm badges that project, you know, a display in front of them, and they're going, yes, I like the display. It's amazing. It's amazing technology. I don't like it, and but the Magellans used this, and I just thought, whatever. And this scene is a setup for trying to discover who is the traitor amongst the Magellan Guard. She does it in a way where she's not going to alert whoever is guilty. At this point, Pike unclips his phaser and heads with her to the guards. Scene cuts to Spock, where he goes into sickbay to speak with the Elder, who's the father of the first servant. He's figured out that this device, this cranial device, is a neural dampener, and that its size means it was going to be used on a child. He asks the Elder if he knows anything, and the Elder says no. Through further conversation, it's revealed that the boy is very smart. The child is really smart. He ends up discussing subspace communications with Spock. He boasts that he created his own subspace frequency. The Elder tells Spock that the boy needs his rest and asks Spock to leave, which Spock does. Cuts back down to the planet, and Allura is at the guard lineup, and she gets them to present their coins. She walks down, giving a speech about the time of ascension is upon us and all that stuff. She goes to this one guy, and his coin case is damaged, and she says, "Your coin case is damaged. What happened?" And he says, "Oh, it was an accident." And she tries to dig a little deeper, and it's clear that he's guilty, and he tries to bolt. Shoves her out the way. Pike saves her from falling over. He disintegrates one of the guards and goes on the run. Now, instead of Pike getting out his phaser and really going for him and chasing after him, he hesitates and Pike in this scene doesn't seem to do a lot. He unclipped his phaser in the last scene, and he doesn't have it ready. He's completely unprepared, and I just thought that's a bit of a failing for the character, isn't it? He's done all this preparation to be prepared for doing this thing, and he does nothing in the end, but make sure Elora is safe. So there's a chase through the gardens of this floating city, and it leads to Pike actually body slamming this guy to the ground after Elora shows him a shortcut. He gets up and points his phaser at him and says that this phaser is not on stun. I thought, well, why wouldn't it be set to stun? You're going to kill this guy. You want to get information out of him, but you set your phaser to kill. Why do that? Why not set it to stun? You want information from this guy. Elora is trying to ascertain why he's betrayed her, and she walks towards him. She walks towards this guy who's clearly guilty, has killed other guards, and she walks towards him. And he grabs her and puts a knife to her throat. And at this point, there's something very telling that Pike's character should have picked up on. This guy says something like, "Long live the first servant." And I thought, if he's still loyal to the first servant, when he says something like that, why wouldn't it make Pike question why he's still saying "Long live the first servant"? If he wanted to harm the first servant, then it just struck me as weird. She manages to free herself from his grasp and flips him down to the ground, and they both fall, and his knife goes into him, and he dies. Cuts back to Enterprise, and we see Sam Kirk. Sam Kirk has returned for the tiniest of scenes. He's literally there just to go, "Hi, Uhura, you're on training with La'an, aren't you? You got a few minutes to eat your dinner? Well, I think you deserve at least an hour." And La'an comes up and he goes, "I'm going away. I'm conflict averse." And I thought, well, there's a striking difference between him and James Kirk. He's conflict averse. Anyway, La'an is there to see Uhura because Uhura has special translating talents, as we know. She states that she liberated some computer chips from the ship during an investigation. And she's bent the rules, and that's one of her rules, is that sometimes you have to bend the rules. And the reason that she took these computer chips is that following procedure would have taken weeks of investigation. I'm not really clear on how that would happen, in all honesty. Why would it take weeks for them to figure out what's on these chips, through what kind of procedures? I mean, how much red tape can there be in an investigation that's got a time limit? Anyway, La'an is operated by Balto rules, and basically surreptitiously removed these chips without anyone knowing. She said she can't run it through the chips translator because then everyone would know she's been a naughty girl. Uhura says, "Okay, yeah, I'll have to translate the chips," and off La'an goes. Cuts back to sickbay, and Mbenga is poking at the possibility of using the treatment to save his daughter. You know, he asks the question of the elder, "Can I speak to you about a patient?" And it's his daughter, obviously, but he doesn't reveal that to him. And the elder says, "Well, I can't share our technology to help you cure this patient. It goes against the rules of Magellan, and Starfleet has similar rules." And Mbenga says, "Not when it comes to medical intervention." I thought, well, is that the case? And I was trying to think back, and I don't know whether medical intervention is actually a loophole in the Prime Directive. Let me know your thoughts on that one. I'd like to hear from you. Cuts down to the planet, and Pike is about to get some. He's about to bow. Wow! Can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry. I really am. Pike's about to get some with Laura, and I thought that was really weird in the midst of an investigation. And I thought it was really funny because they clearly just done the deal, and his hair still looks like Johnny Bravo. It's still way up there. He's not got any bed hair whatsoever. Come to think of it, and neither does she. Maybe they were relatively motionless. I don't know. That's some good hair gel. I could do with some of that myself. Pike reveals, obviously, about his future. He knows what's coming, and she says, "Well, Magellan, the Magellans can save you, but you'd have to live here. So, essentially, when it happens, come here and live here. We'd be able to treat you and get you back on your feet and all that." He says, "Well, the future's a long way away. Anything can happen. Let's stop talking about it." Cuts back to La'an, and Uhura's found something on these data chips. La'an acts a little obnoxiously. She says, I've done the translating, and La'an goes, so you've done the bare minimum then of what I asked you to do. Uhura goes, well, no, actually, I did all this as well. And that's when La'an has to go, humble pie. So she is a humble pie, and she actually does commend Uhura and tell them that they have to present the findings to the captain. And there's no other mention about La'an breaking the rules, the procedural rules. And again, she's not punished by the end of the episode for breaking procedure, bending the rules at all, which I thought was very odd and not a great follow-up. At this point, it's got us to a scene in sickbay, where it's revealed that the first servant, the child, overheard Mbenga and his father talking about Mbenga's daughter. Now, it's a nice little scene, to be fair. It's revealed that he was, this kid is actually really, really smart. Stupid car. And can manipulate noble gases to create a hopscotch. So it's a nice little scene, but, Mbenga puts his daughter back in the transporter. And his dad comes in and says, what's all going on? The first servant just says, I was looking for a snack. And at this point, he says, well, you were just showing off. So we're going to go. So he leaves sickbay. Cuts to the bridge, and Pike's been called up from his booty call. He's not very happy about it, but the crew tell him that they didn't want any chance of Allura overhearing. The colony that this ship was from was called Prospect 7, and it would appear that it's an offshoot colony of Magellan. So clearly people who have left Magellan and gone to a pretty harsh L-class planet, I believe, that has some pretty harsh conditions. And the question then becomes, well, why would people leave Magellan to go to a harsh environment? It's Magellan's practically paradise in comparison. So the people who are trying to kidnap the first servant are not a different species. They're simply Magellans that have moved away. At this point, the bridge gets a call from Mbenga, who informs them that the elders left sickbay with the first servant, and they've gone to the transporter room. Pike asks them what the hell they're doing. He says, we're leaving. We're going down to the planet's surface, and they are beamed away. Pike turns to the transporter chief and says, who gave you permission to transport them away? The chief, Kyle, I am getting to know some of the names now. He says, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. They must have been beamed away from somewhere else. And there's a ship close by that's beamed them away. Again, it's a small combat cruiser. They managed to get a lock onto the Elder and beam him back, but they don't have the first servant. The Enterprise puts the ship into a tractor beam, and there's a little tug of war where this ship tries to go to warp, puts so much stress on the ship, and they release the tractor beam, but the ship is destroyed as it tries to go to warp and escape. So the first servant is apparently been lost. He's died on the ship that has just been destroyed. The Enterprise gets in touch with Magellan and Allura and states that, this is terrible. We're so sorry. And she says, well, he's a savior to our planet. Without him, our planet will fall. The islands will fall. The planet surface is just rivers of lava. It's inhospitable. It all is lost, essentially. Pike's trying to figure out why is this child the key to everything? What makes him so special? Pike asks his crew, how the hell did someone beam anyone off my ship? I'm thinking, well, you answered your own question previously because the shields were down. And then there's some kind of explanation that comes that in order to beam someone quickly off of the Enterprise without anyone knowing, you need the bio patterns of those people and you need access to those records. So this is how it's revealed that the Elder is actually a traitor to Magellan. He's the one responsible for trying to get the first servant away and essentially kidnap him. His own father kidnapping his own son. He's just trying to, at this point, to get the first servant away. At this point, Spock calls Pike away, and he tells him that the first servant has developed his own subspace frequency, and that Spock thought it was really good practice just to monitor that, just in case of anything. A little bit of a plot convenience there. They track down the signal, the homing signal that the first servant has created, and he's actually in a container in an Enterprise corridor. And at this point, I was trying to piece this together. So the Elder was trying to escape to this ship with the first servant. They both got beamed away. The Enterprise then beamed the Elder back, but not the first servant. And then the ship that was trying to escape the Enterprise beamed the first servant back onto the Enterprise, where the first servant emitted his homing signal through subspace, and Spock found it, and then they find him in a container in a corridor on the Enterprise. I'm trying to get my head around why that happened in the first place. Despite Pike telling him that he's safer there, the first servant pretty much wants to go down to the planet and begin his rite of ascension. Okay, so he's going to ascend to the throne. Now it cuts down to the planet, and Pike is discussing with Alora the whole ascension thing. Pike questions her about the circumstances, what is actually going on. Obviously, nothing is as it seems. At this point, we know there's something a little bit more nefarious going on here. Pike knows that something's wrong. Alora is allowing Pike to view the ascension ceremony. Nothing really adds up at this point. She's allowing him, through permission from the Magellan Council of Magellan, or Magellan, to view this ceremony. Now, if Alora knew anything about Starfleet, about the Federation, about its values, considering what happens at the end of this episode, she would not want Pike anywhere near it. If she knows anything about Pike and the entire Federation, she wouldn't want Pike anywhere near it. But she gives Pike a special invitation to view the ascension. At this point, the planet has put in a dampening field, so no one can be beamed away and no one can be beamed down, and no shuttle can get in the way. It's like a planet-wide dampening field. Now, at this point, they go to the ceremony chamber, and that's in a cavern where you can see all of these islands being held up by these this system of like power cables or conduits. There's this chair. They're going through the ceremony, and Alora asks the first servant if he's accepts his fate willingly, and the first servant goes, yeah. It's all without knowing what his fate is. And as he's saying, yeah, I freely accept my fate, I'm going to rise to the throne, this kid probably thinks he's going to be like ruler or something. They're carrying this stretcher, and he sees what's in this stretcher, and he suddenly gets scared shitless. Now, any child would go, what the hell is that thing? What is going on? What am I doing? You want me to sit in that? Is that what? Pike wants to see, but the guards, block him. And Alora says, no, it's all right, he can see. Again, if she knew anything about the Federation and Pike, she wouldn't have him there, because he's clearly going to be a disruption. Pike pulls away this cover on this stretcher, and it's this body of a child, and you see it, and it's kind of graphic, and obviously they're going to sacrifice this kid. The kid sits in the chair. Pike struggles. He tries to take down some of the guards, and these wires go into the kid, and he just locks up like that. Yeah, the deed is done. The kid's in the chair. Pike gets knocked out trying to save him, and wakes up in a room with Alora, and he says, what the hell is, I'm going to go save that kid. She says, look, you can't save him. Even if you could make it down to the cavern, disconnecting him from that machine is going to kill him. Now, it's revealed that the founders of Magellan, they made it so all of these floating, this is how I understand it, tell me if I'm wrong, but all the floating islands of Magellan, it was all constructed around being powered by a child's neurological structure. So it's kind of like the Enterprise episode where the Enterprise visits the space station that repairs ships, and then Mayweather gets kidnapped and replaced with a corpse, and his brain structure is powering the process. It is the processing power of the space station with a load of other people that have been kidnapped. So there was a price there. This is powered by a child, and it's his destiny to do it. He's been chosen, and they have rituals and everything, and they're all thankful. They show their gratitude and their thanks on the day, and they're all very thankful. But essentially, it's child sacrifice. They're sacrificing a child to keep their civilization going. They've tried to find other ways of powering, the civilization, but they can't. They've not been successful in looking. And it would appear, by what she said, that it's a case of, well, the next child will be a girl, so it goes girl, boy, girl, boy. And they're obviously, it's their destiny, and it's somewhat holy. But I thought, if it was holy, why would the children be picked by lottery at birth? And if the first servant, I mean, obviously the elder was trying to get his son away from this, understandably so. The children are picked by lottery, so why not just rerun the lottery quickly? Why does it have to be this child? There's nothing about his biology that would serve this system, and there's nothing unique that would mean that they couldn't just pick another child. The entire issue that they have with this one child, and if he's kidnapped or killed or anything like that, then all hope would be lost. Well, in the context of what they're doing, that would be ridiculous. They just run the lottery again and say, right, okay, well, this time we'll have to pick someone else. It's not ideal, but it would save the end of their civilization. Anyway, the child has been sacrificed, and Pike does not agree, obviously, with what they're doing. And I think this Elora is really delusional if she thinks that Pike is going to agree with what they're doing. She uses contrasts of poverty in the Federation on Earth, children suffering on Earth, to allow the Federation to continue going. Okay, yes, to get there, we would have had to go through some struggles. There was a lot of suffering, but the Federation found a way around that and found a way to and why Magellan wouldn't ask the Federation for help on this is beyond me. So Pike says, the first chance I get, I'm going to tell the Federation and Starfleet about what you're doing here. And she says, well, we don't answer to you. This is not your jurisdiction. This is our planet, our civilization. I mean, which is fair enough. It's their planet, their civilization, and the Prime Directive would apply. However, the Federation would have no dealings with them whatsoever. They would non-interference the crap out of that civilization. And then we have a scene with Mbenga, and he gets a visit from the Elder, who offers to help him treat his daughter. And the episode ends with a scene of Pike looking out a window at the Magellan's sun. And it's a good ending to the episode. That's the rundown. I've gone into a lot of detail this time because I had the time to do it for this video. On the surface level, this episode was an absolute cracker. It was so good. On Thursday, I walked away from this episode going, you know what, that was really good, really powerful stuff. But you go back through the episode, you watch it a second time and you go, hang on a minute. This episode doesn't stand up to the scrutiny of a second viewing. There's just loads of different problems that crop up. And those of you who say I'm overly critical on this show, you always see my reaction to the first viewing of any episode. And I've already said I wasn't fair to episode 4 of this show. I was heavily critical of it. I couldn't at the time see past the derivative nature of the episode. So if you'd like me to go back and do a second review for that, then please let me know and I will go back with a fresh set of eyes. However, this episode was good. The foundations of it, of the story, were good. But again, there was just these problems that culminated into a massive structural problem with this episode. And you may agree with me, but you may not. At the end of the day, this is my review of the episode, and this is what I thought. On Thursday, it was a cracking episode, but going back and watching it, I can see the problems. Its heart seems to be in the right place. I think it's worth seeing, but I definitely think it's worth going back to and watching again. These problems are there, and I want to be as fair as I can to the episode, but I don't want to lavish it and just say, yeah, that was a good episode, without thinking about it, going back, watching it again. So I think my reviews may benefit from that. There were some nice moments in it. Again, this show's heading in the right direction. It's tripping up now and then, but it's covering itself pretty well. I think it might just be hiding behind the fact that in a single viewing, you're going to see this episode and think, that was good, but you're not going to go back and critique it. So I would suggest everyone go back and give the episode another watch, but just watch it in an objective fashion, and you may see what I'm talking about. If I had gone ahead with my review on Thursday, it probably would have got at least 7. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Because although it's a good episode in terms of its basic structure, once you analyse it a little deeper, it's just not as poignant. Both liked and disliked the ending of the episode because it was the hero doesn't save the day all the time. But those were my thoughts on the episode. If you're still with me, thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for watching. I will be back next week with the Orville and the next episode of Strange New Worlds. If you like this video, then please hit that like button. If you haven't yet subscribed and you like what you see, then please hit that subscribe button. I keep saying it in my videos, the channel continues to grow, and it's fantastic, the feedback and responses that I've had. I love reading the comments section and all your comments, so please leave comments in the comments section and tell me what you thought of the episode. It's always nice to hear from you. Until next time, you look after yourselves, you look after one another, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
I need the silence, stop the violence of the war in my head. Time's the healer, the eraser of all done and said. And as I fall back to my shelter, I know I'll only find peace in your smile.